Welcome back. Start off this video by saying I'm recording this on my tablet with my clip mic, and the reason why I'm using the tablet is because I can edit video and upload it directly to YouTube. Why is that important? Well, as you can probably tell by the description and the title of the video, I may have fried my computer. And right now it's Tuesday, it's 7:27 p.m. of course, and I wanted to have something up on the YouTube channel for you guys to watch, and unfortunately, I can't edit the stuff I already have on the camera because my computer's fried. And I tried doing it on my wife's computer, and then it occurred to me upon trying to edit everything that her computer really isn't as fast as mine. There's no video card in it, and that video card does help with the, rendering of the video. And I have double the RAM, I have an SSD, so there's a lot of things going on for me that's making a little problem. But plus that, I have files on my hard drive that I need for the editing of the video. Well, what happened to my computer, you might ask? Well, every morning when I go to work, I put it to sleep, and most of the time when I go to bed at night, I put it to sleep. And when I'm home, it's on and I'm using it, and then obviously it's sleeping the other rest of the time. I do have a server, which is actually under this desk. My wife and my computer is both hooked to that, and it does back up nightly. So I should have backups of everything, but sometimes it doesn't back up because it is sleeping, and it doesn't wake it up to do so. So that's a little bit of an issue. But what happened was instead of putting it to sleep, I shut it down. And when I turned it back on, it wouldn't go. It would boot into BIOS. I have Windows 10. You get the Windows 10 logo with the little spinning circle. And then the computer would just shut off completely, just straight out. And then it would load up probably, like I said, 2-3 seconds later, sometimes 5 seconds later. You'd hear complete power loss. It'd come right back up again, go through BIOS. And then this time when Windows 10 started loading up, it would bring you into the diagnostics program, which never loaded and went same loop. And you just keep going through the same loop. And I started going, what the hell? And I racked my brains out. And then it dawned upon me, well, I have my computer overclocked. A mild overclock, nothing fancy. But there's actually dip switches on the motherboard that I have set, and you can also do some stuff in BIOS, and there's also a piece of software that you can download. Now, the software I didn't have on this Windows 10 build, but prior to that in Windows 7 I did. And I think playing around the other day, I noticed that my computer's processor wasn't running at the speed that I had set to via the overclocking, although the overclocking says it was. So I thought maybe Windows 10 was throttling back the computer or something, because that's possible. And I figured I would download the software and try it again. Well, I think that's what killed it, because it wasn't made for Windows 10. It installed no problem, but they didn't say I could or couldn't. But it seemed like Windows 7's where it stopped as far as the website's support line. And I didn't think anything of it. But I guess apparently when I restarted the computer, I had no problem, but for some reason shutting it down had a problem. Now, maybe I fried something hardware-wise. I don't know. And the reason why I don't know is because I did manage to download the recovery disk for my wife's computer, burned it, and after some tweaking, I actually reset the BIOS a couple times just to make sure, the overclocking was taken off. I even opened up and flipped the dip switches back. It's a 3.2 gigahertz, and I think I had it set to 3.6. And who knows, maybe over the years of doing that, it just fried on its own. But the thing is I managed to put the disk in, and after a while, I can boot to the diagnostics section on that actual recovery disk. Problem is I can't do a system recovery because I don't have an image on that computer. I can't do the restore point because there isn't any current restore points at all, which is strange. There's a lot of things going on with it that I can't get anywhere. And then when you restart from there or try to go into, I can get command prompt up, I can get regedit up, no problems with those. So I have tweaked around there a little bit, see if I could try to figure it out, try to delete the software manually. But for some reason, it's not getting past a certain point. And I even tried getting to the point where I can go into safe mode. No good. So that's the main problem. So what I decided to do was take that hard drive out, put it into my computer, the server here, and try to get it to read that way, and it wouldn't read. And it's unfortunately set to a dynamic disk, and I didn't really think about that too well. So when I went to put it in this computer, it just says it was an invalid drive and it couldn't read it. And instead of doing the research on it and try to figure out why, I figured, well, maybe it's a dynamic drive, I could just convert it to simple. basically by clicking that, I might as well just said delete my data. I don't need it anymore. I understand dynamic disks have a 100 megabyte or 1 megabyte, whatever it is, file at the very end of the track, and it tells the computer basically what is where. And when you convert it from dynamic back to simple, the computer just deletes that file, so it renders everything obsolete. So now if I go on to my wife's computer, which it's plugged into now, because I thought it was something with Windows home server versus Windows 10, that computer actually tells me that it's unallocated space. So if you know anything about formatting a hard drive, once you make that allocatable and apply a drive number to it, you can format it, but then you format it, you lose the data that's on it. So I have to use a data recovery program to fix the hard drive now. Because if the hard drive works, and my SSD, which is what Windows is on, that's still in the computer, if those work, it's probably a hardware error via the motherboard or some other stuff that's going on in that computer. So I'm just more concerned about my files. Now, like I mentioned, I do have backups of stuff, but the backups are kind of weird the way they work, because you have to have the computer up and running to get the files, from what I can understand. I have to play around with the Windows home server later on and see if that's the case, but it seemed like last time I tried to do that, I needed to be in the Windows environment in my own computer, and then I could open up that image file and then pick the files out I wanted. So it seems. So that's problem one, is that hard drive. Problem two is the computer. I mean, the hard drive is the main thing. That's my data right there, obviously. The computer, hey, you know, I've had a good run with it. If I need to build a new one, I can build a new one. It's not a problem. There are some things about that I can talk about. Memory. I have 16 gigs of memory, like I mentioned. I don't remember off the top of my head what speed it is. I think it's like 12800. Don't quote me. But that's faster than the 8 gig set that I had in that, which I have lying around here someplace. My intention was at one point was to buy another motherboard, another piece of memory or whatever that was newer, put the new memory that's in this computer and put the old memory back in it, so I still have a working machine, and then start from scratch the other way. And one of the problems is there's 4 slots to get you that 16 gigs. It's not like it's 2 8 gig chips. And some of the newer motherboards seem like they're going the way of just having 2 instead of 4. So I have to look around and find something that's going to fit exactly my specs. Plus video card, I have a GT 9800 in there, or I should say 9800 GT for GeForce. And that's, you know, kind of old by now. I mean, it has a gig of RAM in it, which is nice, but it's, you know, it's nothing like these newer cards that are out there, like all these new, you know, they're all in 3 digits now. It used to be like 6800 was my first one, and then 78, 88, and obviously up to 9, you know. But it's funny now, they're like, it's the 630. So it's like they went backwards with the numbers, at least with the GeForce stuff, NVIDIA. And I'd probably, you know, I'm an Intel guy, so I would think I would go with NVIDIA and Intel and go that route instead of AMD, but AMD is a lot cheaper. So I have to kind of, you know, weigh out the options and see. I mean, if it's just a matter of buying a new motherboard and, you know, a new processor and just reusing my RAM and maybe my, you know, SSD or anything like that. I mean, even that, like, it's only 120 gigs, but it's not full. So I don't need more space because I have a 1 terabyte data drive. So it's a lot of stuff to weigh out. And, you know, of course, like, why don't I just fix it? Well, you know, maybe it's not fixable. I don't really know exactly what's going on with it because I've never seen that problem before. And when I Googled it, it seems that there is a Windows restart bug that came out with the last update, but that doesn't fit the description of this. That's like it just restarts. This is actually, I'm getting a complete loss of power at a certain point. So it makes me wonder, you know, like I said, with the overclocking, if something's happening there, it's throttling up the processor and then it's dying out from heat. That's a good possibility. That may end up being, of course, videos that may come up. And I say that plural because there's going to be different sections of it. Obviously, right now, just not having exactly everything set up, that's going to hinder me. In fact, I'm not sure how well this is going to work even. I'm going to find out, hopefully soon. But, you know, it's just, this thing's going to be interesting to get into. So I do intend on getting that out as long as I can get that hard drive working and I can do the editing on one of these other machines. This one I know I can't. It won't work with the Windows home server environment. It just flat out won't even install. But on that computer I got it installed and everything. It's just a matter of getting the graphics, I guess you could say, and everything that I use in my little intro and, you know, the outro of the video. I could always remake them, but, you know, it's, again, if I can save the data, I'll always try to do that. With that, guys, I'm going to get on that project right now and hopefully get this thing working. I want to thank you for watching, and we'll see you guys next video.